By the way, this is Tia. She is being trained for when Patty goes on leave. Yep. Everybody say hi to Tia. Yes. Tia's learning here.
We're in the corner. It said recording in progress. We're ready, right? Yes. Yeah, we're ready.
Okay. Okay. We can go ahead and start the roundtable. And my understanding is you have a presentation for us, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we thought we'd just kind of open with our remarks and hopefully solicit a lot of questions and comments, that we can wrap up at the end. It'd be great.
I'll start it off if you don't mind.
Yep.
Nice to meet you.
Pardon?
You know who we are.
I'm Doug Fowry, and I live at 310 Oak Street, River. And I have spent the last couple of months since we last saw each other trying to come through almost every aspect of this issue presented in the papers that I know you've all received. Is there anyone here that hasn't had a chance to review those things? It'll give me a gauge of how much minutiae to go into if there's someone who didn't get a chance to digest it.
We all, yeah, opportunity.
Okay, great. Well, then I will start by going to the outline that is basically the executive summary in the packet and giving you some background behind what the order of presentation is. Now, we also have slides that we're going to fit on here somewhere without blocking out. Oh, no, we do block out. Anyway, the whole background of this starts back before any of you were on the commission. And although certainly certain staff members may have been on, the origin was back in 2014, and there was a big movement afoot to kind of formalize the relationship between boathouse owners and the port in order to encourage long-term improvements that are being made. They were recognized as being an essential part. I mean, we've read this into the record for you before. It's part of the Marina study of 2015 where it's articulated. That's also in the materials. But essentially, it was a very good time between as a partnership was being formed, so to speak, between the port and the boathouse owners, who were recognized as being constant tenants, reliable income stream, and there were no complaints. Now, what happened between 2014 and 2022 are several things. There was a fire in the Dallas Boathouse area, which was alarming to everyone. Now, it turns out that there haven't been any fires at all in other marinas in Oregon since that time, or for that matter, before. It's not a common occurrence, but it's certainly a concern. And so that was raised at the time as being a motivator for reanalyzing the position of boathouse owners and the presence of boathouses in the marina, along with several other things. One being some of the concerns that went along with financing the bridge, and that was some of the DEQ issues that were raised. But I think as time has gone by, we have seen that a lot of those concerns were not real. And for the further, the idea that there were toilets that were being flushed into the marina by boathouse owners turns out to be false. The fact that they had done studies and detected high concentrations of pollution under the boathouse, that turns out to be false. The idea that we were somehow violating the rules of the marina were also not founded, in fact. And so what happened is there was almost a 360 from the 2014 agreement, which prompted us to invest over $250,000 of Boathouse owners' money to pay for the dock improvement, in reliance upon the idea that this was going to be a rolling lease that would renew itself perpetually. And that gave us the impetus to say, yeah, we're in. We paid for our share of the new electrical upgrades, we paid for the new dock over a 10-year period, based on bond assessments that were given to us annually. And, it went very nicely until 2022 in August, when all of these concerns were raised, along with the idea that during that time, part of the motivation of the new lease was to give some ability for boathouse owners to improve them and maintain them. And it also gave rise to a ability to transfer the leases to new owners. And as a side product, unbeknownst to us, which has a lot to do with just the economics of the time, it also gave rise to appreciation of boathouses that has been objected to by some of the commissioners, and we are going to address that as well. So we're looking forward to a steady flow of question answers so that we can get you details. But in general, we have taken the next step, which is to do a financial analysis of how important the boathouses are to the port. We have presented studies by former contractors who worked in the port for the port mission. And we're going to show that it's really not feasible to convert the boathouse dock without it being a waste of money, and that the preferred idea, assuming that there is money to pay for it, is to create a new dock in the location that it was originally designed in by the report that was done back in 2014 by IMF and Flowing Solutions.
Even 2007.
Yeah, it goes way back to, and so we find ourselves in an interesting position of being able to revive some of the old ideas in order to save the boathouses so that you maintain your income stream and maintain your $22,000 in rent payments without any increases that we are also amenable to, and that we can make ourselves welcome in the marina by being a valuable tenant. Now, the financial reality is pretty much laid out in Kevin Greenwood's memo to you guys for your next session, the regular meeting. That apparently was the subject of your discussions back in November. And it's just a fact that the marina is operating, the marina section of the port is operating at a deficit. And that we would imagine that that's not a good thing, and that getting rid of the boathouses would be insult to injury. As long as we can meet you more than halfway by complying with all of the wish lists that we have come up with in my proposed addendum to the lease that is part of your package, that would allow, it's not in depth. So I'm just throwing it out there as being their ideas. We can share profits. We can, of our boathouse sales, and make sure that we are maintaining our boathouses in compliance with all of the issues that you have been raised in the past and the new rules and regs. We're all for them. We are some of the most compliant people in this room at this point. We are really anxious to point out that it may be folly to pursue the boathouses and get rid of them, but in exchange, we have to ask for a reinstatement of the rolling leases, because that's the only way that you have the kind of stability that allows you to transfer the boathouses and thus give some share of those profits to the port. Without that, no one's going to buy a boathouse. And not that, I mean, I've owned mine for over 25 years and have no plans to sell. There's actually been not that many that have sold, especially since 2022. None, the only one has sold, and that is the former Kathy Carter boathouse. And that was, I hope that you've read the letters that have been submitted.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Since it's a roundtable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I have a question about the 2015 study you submitted. The only thing I have is from our 2021 to 2026 strategic business plan. It has the 2007 Marina Basin Planning Study. And under houseboats, the rest of the text looks exactly the same, except for the houseboat paragraph. Which says these structures provide a very limited revenue base and they present a relatively high risk to the port for fire and general pollution problems. In general, boathouses tend to be a depreciating eyesore over the long haul. The largest single boat in these structures is 31 feet. And all of the current boathouse tenants and all of those on the wait list could be efficiently accommodated in a 30-foot slip, 30-foot covered moorage pier. Some additional boat links data from owners on the waiting list should confirm this. Trading boathouses for covered slips would also be seen as a positive by the fisheries agencies. The water area covered by a covered roof would be about the same as is covered today, but modern covered moorage will integrate transport roof structures and other light transmitting techniques welcomed by fisheries agencies. And I can't find any record of a 2015 study that mirrors the 2007, but completely changes verbiage on the boathouses.
Heather, if I can address that, because I was on the ports ad hoc committee on that is the only copy that I could find. I've asked the port for their copy previously, and it seems to have disappeared. But that was given to me at the port ad hoc committee, and I've talked to two other port ad hoc committee members at the time who also remember getting that. So from the port, I have no idea why it's not in the report there.
Study.
Huh?
Who presented the?
I believe that it was a strategic plan that came out of all of these meetings that we had and all the reports from like Flowing Solutions. The Hallgren Group did another one. And then we met with the Corps of Engineers and other people here in the marina and went through all these various alternate plans. And that is what the ad hoc committee came up with. We do have a copy of the worksheet.
So this isn't an actual study, it's just the opinion of
That
the
is
committee.
exactly what was given to us at the port ad hoc committee
And if you,
by the port. So
It's entitled study.
yeah,
And if you go back and research
who wrote
through
it?
Google, it shows it in the minutes during that time and several that it was presented to the board,
Yeah.
this study.
and I assume that it was written by port staff at the time. So, we certainly had input being on that committee, but the whole worksheet that we can provide to you by I think Melissa Halstead at the time was the marina coordinator, and as they were working with legal counsel on a rolling lease, all of those issues were addressed with those goals in mind. And the real goal is to create value, but not make Boathouse people rich. You know, it was to create a better, more sightly community area down there that we are now, as part of this proposal, asking the port to help us bring that back. You know, it's been kind of left alone for the last 4 years because, you know, you wouldn't put money in something that you're going to have to destroy down the road. So until we get this worked out, we don't have a chance to improve that.
So the 2015 study, well, it wasn't really a study on the houseboats that I read. Basically, the only verbiage in the Halgrens that even included houseboats was talking about a survey. And they didn't give any recommendations, but the survey showed pretty overwhelmingly that the people surveyed thought the houseboats should be phased out.
In 2013.
2015, the Halgrens survey. It said that one person thought that more houseboats should be added, and other people thought that they should. I don't think it said phased out, it said shouldn't be replaced or something like that, renewed. Or something like that.
That was in what year?
2015, the Halberns. They're all, the only thing that listed anything about houseboats was a survey.
Well,
Boathouse.
there was also a flowing solutions study that was done about that same time, and that might even be part of what you're quoting from. But there was also some.
The 2022.
You're talking 2022 survey.
It was
There wasn't. I have never seen a survey in 2015.
Halgrens did a study. The boathouses were just kind of reviewed in a survey.
So
It raises the question of why the court went through all of the trouble to create the rolling leases, if that's indeed what the intention was.
the decision that was made to give us the rolling leases, you know, was based on these recommendations, credible recommendations from port's own consultants and longtime legal staff. The point where, you know, before we get into, I know your time is really limited, but rather than get into which report said what when, I think the important thing is what we want to do going forward. And we can bring to the table here something that is going to help the board avoid a costly decision by getting rid of us. Assure continued increasing revenue from the boathouse docks on a dock that we paid for. So you've got, you know, as far, I mean, I don't know what your returns are on other port investments, but, you know, the port paid almost zero for that dock, and it's 100% return, whatever we can generate off of it. So let's work together to generate the most off of that. Also, it's really important, and I'm going to give you a little cheat sheet to take home when we're done here, but the cost to convert that dock is way more than what it costs to add way more boat slips on the A and B dock. And we have, so why would you throw out 100% ROI with somebody who wants to partner with the port to increase your revenue and also create more opportunities for people on the wait list elsewhere to generate a whole bunch more money for the port with a better return on investment? Then, yeah, I don't mean to get in your way here, Doug.
This is fine. I think that the bottom line is that this has been addressed in the materials and the studies that we paid for. And it doesn't answer the question about the evolution of going back to these different studies. I don't pretend to know any of that, but it does, I think, raise the issue of, if that were true, why would we be entering into and spending the money that's associated with entering into a new rolling lease that was intended to solve problems that were present in the marina about people not having the guarantees that they needed to pay for improvements and whatnot, and maybe pay for even a new dock. And so,
My understanding is, and I mean, I hope you know that I hear what you're saying and I am very empathetic. But I see both sides and I see
which is
that,
the other side.
well, the reason, in order for the boathouses to survive at all, there had to be improvements. And there was an agreement made that, well, if you want, you know, if you want to be able to stay, that the docks have to be improved. I also think there's more than just financial, that this commission and past commissions have looked at. It's not just about money. I mean, I just read that paragraph and, you know, it's also about how it looks and about possible risks to the port in the long term with fire and pollution problems. It's also, we have just read like all over the state that houseboats are just kind of being phased out in general.
Not true. We're not sure that there's any basis.
I'd like to see the data.
Okay.
You know, there are, I'm sure there are places there aren't boathouses where there used to be, but there are a lot of boathouses, and I know that the special districts that does the insurance insures several marinas that have and want to keep their boathouses. So that's something that, again, I think was misleading in the packet that was provided when the 2022 decision was made. You know, the thing is, it's kind of a historic little cultural corner of the Hood River experience. You know, the whole marina. We would like to make those things much nicer, much better. And if we can do that, it increases the value. We can pay more. We can share on an upside, and we can create an opportunity to make it something that's attractive, even to those who might be naysayers. And at the same time, we can take care of more people on the wait list. But when the 2022 decision went down, you might recall that you know, we were offered to be able to put our boats in the new slips that would replace our boathouses. So according to the reports that you have in our packet, we've got a potential of 18 new boats, like 18 to 20 new boats, depending on what you do with sheriff's boathouse. And if 10 boathouses take those, picking up 8 to 10 new boat slips at a great deal of risk and a lot more cost than putting in way more slips at the end of A and B dock, where all the consultants told you to put them. So, you know, we can address your concerns for fire safety. You know, we don't want them to burn. You know, we put fire extinguishers on the dock, running water on the dock. We'd like to work with you on improving the water situation, the plumbing. You know, we've always chipped in when we've been asked, and we can make that work down there. We can make them look nicer. We can make them safer. We can do whatever you need to do, but we kind of need to partner with you in that effort. And the downside, the people who maybe want us to go away, if you try to convert that dock, it's going to be a boondoggle with very, very low return. And I don't know that the port has wants to invest in something with that lower return. I don't think your alternative is much value.
Can I speak for a second? So I would like to go back to what I know you read in 2007. We have that study. We've read it before. But in 2013-14, when the port worked with the boathouse owners to get them to pay for that new dock, and as part of that, the new lease, things must have changed because they wouldn't have gone there if it wasn't that they wanted the boathouses in the marine at that point.
And
It
I,
makes no sense to me that they would just say, we don't really want you, but we're gonna spend this amount of money on a dock, and you're gonna pay for it, and we're gonna sign this rolling lease. I have more stuff I can share with you guys, because I did do research on that. And it speaks to that Marina Basin study. If you Google it, it speaks to it a lot in a lot of places, and how it was in the minutes. It was presented to the board. You cannot find a copy of it online. Like you can find everything else online for the port. It's not there. But it does speak to it frequently. So I do believe it actually existed.
Yeah, I think that's because it must have been a committee edit of the 2007 study.
No, I don't think so. That doesn't how it
Where's
comes
the rest
across.
of where's the rest of it then?
I said the documents aren't there, but it spoke to that they had gone through and done it. And in the meantime, I have a commission memo from Lisa Helseth that speaks to,
let's make sure and get that to them.
well, if you won't mind, I'd like to read.
Sure.
It's not in our packet.
Okay.
Over the course of the past 6 months, the Marina Ad Hoc Committee has discussed issues associated with the boathouses in the marina, including new lease terms and conditions. The attached draft term sheet reflects a consensus of the committee about key lease terms. They are intended to reflect market conditions, place limits on boathouse additions, and encourage upgrades to the appearance and condition of individual boathouses. This draft has undergone a general review by legal counsel. Based on direction from the commission, staff will work closely with legal counsel for a final lease agreement to be approved by the commission in November and effective January 1, 2014. And then it goes through piece by piece, those terms that you see on our lease. And those were then built into the lease. And so all of this was being worked on at that point to retain the boathouses in the marina.
And part of the reason that it happened around the 2013-2014 timeline was that there was one commissioner who was driving the get rid of boathouses back in 2007, who was voted out or moved on. And we had a unanimous vote by all the commissioners in 2014 or 13 or 14, whenever it was, to adopt that term and create this partnership with the port to make the boathouse dock better, invest in it in return for that longevity of that lease. So that was a decision that was made by a very well-informed commission at the time. And, obviously things changed. And
Maybe I can ask a question, because this is something we've been pondering, and there could be an answer to it, but we just don't know what that be. How does the port propose to pay for the conversion potentially of the boathouse dock if they continue on the path they're on? Or how do they propose to pay for new fingerling docks on A and B if they're in a yes?
I don't think that's a conversation for, this meeting at all. I mean, what our plans are for the future, are not at all this round.
No, it has to do, my reason for asking is why throw out an income source?
It's 100% ROI.
One could argue that, I don't know if it's 100% ROI. Numbers can definitely help give you the answers that you want to give it. What I can say is that I know that there's a long historical aspect of the boathouses. I know that there have been past discussions, agreements, and reasons, but the only thing that we can all count on is change, and whether or not an agreement was made in 2015 or 17, we have to look at where we're at now with the bridge, with the marina, with the state of the port, with the state of our relationship with the community. And I think we need to look at where we're at today and move forward and make our decisions based on it.
Absolutely, we agree 100%.
Yeah, we agree. Totally.
That's why it
And we
needs to
think,
be reviewed.
we think the bridge is no longer an issue for Boathouse. And if it is, there's provisions in the lease that take care of that in terms of construction.
But the board voted already to terminate the leases.
Yes,
They did.
yes. Yeah, and that's why,
I think
that's why
based
we're
on
here.
a false narrative.
There was a lot of misinformation that went into that decision. But the important thing is, like you said, the only thing we can count on is change. Things have changed. Things have changed substantially. We don't have, we have got more to offer the port than we had before. And, the fairness part of this thing for the people on the wait list, we can accommodate more of them for less money elsewhere. It'd be a great investment for the port to do that, and we're totally supportive. But why throw out the baby with the bathwater when you have, loyal tenants who have paid for their dock, and all they want to do is pay you more money with zero investment from the port? That doesn't make sense to me. That's the part I think the community wouldn't understand. And that's why things have changed, and that's why there needs to be some reconsideration on this.
And from a fairness standpoint, getting the boathouse owner to pay for a dock that they use for 10 years, it's good for 50 years,
Or 100 years.
that's a problem.
I'd like to, we had a presentation. You don't want to hear it, or are you willing to have us go through our slides?
Oh, sure, yeah, we have until 5.
Where are we at?
Yeah, I think we're on.
Unless you have other things you want to ask.
Just keep going through.
I mean, I guess we're checking for you.
I signed on the stop.
Questions?
Gathering information. I'm seeing, I went back and I've done my research about the history, and I have seen pressures going back on both sides. It seems to me that 10 years ago, there was something of a compromise. There definitely were commissioners at that time that wanted to see the boathouses go. And the port received something, which was the fee that the boathouse owners have paid to upgrade the dock. And the way I look at it is there was a transaction there, a compromise, if you will. The port, and hence the community, received an upgrade to that dock would take place over 10 years. Boathouse owners received a promise to move to a 5-year lease, which would give them some, not a forever lease, a 5-year lease, which has been renewed a few times. So it seems to me that that was a compromise where both sides got something they wanted, and it continued. But the pressures, as you say, go back, I mean, to probably before that 2007. You're speaking about there being at least one commissioner who was like down on boathouses.
Yeah.
But typically when the port contracts independent, contractors to do a study, they don't say, here's our secret thing conclusion we want you to arrive at. They say, go make your analysis and give it to us. And Flowing Solutions at that time, was sort of advocating you might want to look at phasing these boathouses out for the following reasons. So I can see the pressures that have been there over time on both sides. And I appreciate the work that's gone into this, and I'd like to hear more from you on this. So please continue.
Yeah. Well, I think since you raised it, I wanted to hit the point that think that the boathouse owners agreed that they invested $250,000 for the right to have the boathouse for 10 years.
No, I don't think there was any.
Yeah.
I don't think there was
Yeah.
any agreement on either
I
side.
just wanted to make that clear.
Yeah.
And there is the other point that they are not perpetual. We would take issue.
So was there a,
Yes.
is there a lease language that?
If there's one document that I would really encourage you, it's only the 5 pages of the lease.
Yeah,
And read it carefully. There is a termination clause in there that lists the causes that the board can terminate the lease. And one is for non-compliance and being in default and not curing the default, and it's listed.
Mhm.
So
And-
the board, yeah, and so the board has the right to cancel the lease, just like the tenants did.
Hmm.
But the port's rationale needs to be
Either non-compliance or non-payment.
I can read it from this too. Reasons for port denial of lease extension include breach of lease terms and poor state of repair and maintenance of the tenant's boathouse. That's the termination clause in the lease. So, we just maybe you might want to read the lease.
And the lease worked because there was a lot of investment right after that lease was done, including Jenny Kraft, who bought in good faith based on what she was told by port staff that she could rebuild that boathouse. She actually paid a lot of money for an old junker, paid a lot of money to get rid of it. I think you maybe saw the receipts of it for her destruction. It was done in good faith, but that was the trend that we and the then commissioners at least were hoping to see happen. That all of these places just get cleaner and better and nicer. I know we put a new roof on ours and others did, other things and
And there was the whole float controversy and all of that was kind of a debacle.
your lease language is not in your packet.
If, yeah,
Yes,
the lease
yeah,
is there.
there's a sample lease.
We were asked to supply it because you guys didn't have a copy.
Yeah. When I asked Kevin for it, they couldn't locate it in the system.
I have a copy.
We were looking for
No, it's part of your document. At the very end.
The last thing in the document.
That's it.
that's it, yeah.
But,
I want a copy.
I caution you not to get into the minutia of the lease at this point.
Yeah.
We're really not, we're not here to litigate that.
Mhm.
We're trying to get this whole thing moved onto a common sense level.
Right.
Which is why throw away an income source when you could have it, unless there's some ethical unfairness that has been addressed in our addendum, which means that the port can share in some of the transfer profits when a boathouse is sold. That seemed to be the real killer there. They didn't like the fact, the commissioners, some of you are here, didn't like the fact that the boathouses were watching their boathouses appreciate like mad.
Which didn't
Selling
happen
them,
until
having used
after.
the having used public property. Now, I can't answer whether or not there's any veracity to that, whether it's common. My research has led me to believe that other marinas do a similar thing that we're proposing to do, which is pay a transfer fee that includes 5% of the sales price or 10%. We haven't figured out what it would be. But this idea that we're being demonized as,
Profiting off the port's lease.
that's a function of Hood River.
Yeah, that seems to be incidental, something that happened. I don't think anybody bought a boathouse or built it thinking I'm making an investment.
No,
Right.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, some of the boathouse owners during this time where they're paying for unnecessary upgrades, et cetera, to underwater packets of flotation had to sell their boathouse at a fire sale. It's kind of a cavalcade of horrors going back to 2022 and how this whole thing was done and how it cost people money when it wasn't necessary, and how ultimately they just said, well, so what? So what if you paid for the dock? So what if you paid for all these repairs? You're out of here. And
I'm sorry, Doug, if I could add, it actually cost the port a bunch of money too, because the port ended up having to pay for new flotation under the sheriff's dock for no reason. And the port lost a tenant who, you know, because she was told she could rebuild in that space, she was happy to continue to pay, and then she was told she couldn't. So now you got a vacant space that's been sitting there for 3, 4, 5 years, that the port's lost money in. So there are some flaws with the 2022 decision. We want to help you correct it. We want to help the port prosper when it needs it. We want to get more people who want boat slips at a better price, and, you know, be a partner making the marina like we've always been. Make the marina a special place for everybody.
anyway, returning to the presentation, we have jumped ahead in certain cases, but this is just kind of a synopsis of what kind of money is involved based on the August 31 year-to-date counting that was provided online. You go ahead and advance that slide. So this is kind of, everything stays the same, and you take into account all the annual boat slips. So if there's still going to be over time, there's going to be an annual deficit that you're confronting, and one that I imagine you'd want to avoid in the name of fiscal responsibility. Yeah.
Debbie, can I just clarify? My understanding was that the marina itself is being positive. It's not in a deficit situation.
That is correct. What those numbers reflect is Marina Basin, which includes the park.
The commercial property and the marina.
Well, it does not include the commercial property, but it includes the park. So it's everything that's around the marina. Out includes the cruise ship jetty.
Yeah, everything you're trying to pay for with the marina.
Yeah, and I mean, they get subsidized, of course, with industrial revenue from the industrial properties.
Okay, go ahead.
Which the books are kept.
So yes, it does include Marina Park.
Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so the long and short of the studies is that you really can't convert a boat dock without taking enormous risk, dredging up the marina to put in new pilings, having disruption of the ecosystem, all of the things that go along with possible pollutants that
Well,
stirred up.
but that part, Doug, that's a permit issue with the Corps of Engineers that limits a time window that there's that. But big issue is the structural integrity of that dock was not designed to hang fingers up. And so please read the IMFS letter and Flowing Solutions letter. They provide the expertise to explain that, but if you're going to spend that much money, don't spend it there. Spend it someplace where you can actually get more boat slips for less money and generate more revenue. Because you're only picking up 8 new slips by converting that if you follow through on your offer to allow us to take 10 of them.
In your packet, this is addressed in the wait list. And so
If you look at, for those 2 studies, we did a summary called Boathouse dock conversion versus new dock construction. It kind of pulls it into a couple of paragraphs. Otherwise, the studies themselves, I think, are very, very precise that the boathouse dock cannot be converted. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
If you take it out, you can
Replace it.
but you're going to only get, if you read through those studies, you're going to get 18 slips. And 10 of those slips are going to go to boathouse owners. So you're going to pick up 8 slips off the wait list. for $600 to $1 million. If you take that money and you go north, up A and B docks, you can pick up 24, 40,
38.
38 new waitlist slips and still have the boathouse dock income.
And not spend any more money.
So, I mean, to me, it makes, I have it hard, it's hard for me to fathom why you would remove that dock unless you have other plans for it, because it can't be converted without spending a ton of money, and it probably wouldn't even convert that well. So if you don't if you haven't really studied anything and what we presented to you, we paid, the owners paid a lot of money to these two studies. Really appreciate if you would really study that, understand what they're saying.
Yeah, I read the whole packet, and I also read the 2022 study that I think was Halgren's, isn't it?
Yeah.
Did you
What? There's no Halbrins.
No, Halgren's was before.
I know there was one in
14.
2015. Who did the 2022 study?
Flowing Solutions did
Flowing
one for your,
They listed several options.
Yes.
yes,
For the bow stocks, they said that they could easily be reconfigured and used for
doesn't say that.
option B. Boathouse dock could easily be reconfigured and used for transient or fuel dock, or moved to the north side for other uses.
Yes.
You could,
Yeah.
well, easily reconfigured if you move it, but you're not gonna reconfigure it into boat slips.
No, moved for either
For the
to
purpose of
replace the fuel
relocating.
dock or
Yeah.
used for transient, or moved to the north side for other uses.
Yeah.
But you also-
Including covered.
And the IMF study says the same thing, that you can do it, but it's gonna cost you a boatload of money.
And why? What's the goal of getting rid of this? I mean, if it's to make room for more boat slips, it doesn't make sense. If it's to save money or have a better return on investment, it doesn't make sense. You know, if it's a safety factor or something like that, let's figure out how to address it.
I think we know how to address it, and it's been reviewed by you guys. There's been quotes given from broader environmental insurance, those kinds of things.
And I'd like to,
Nothing's the realm of possibility. We don't invite driving ourselves into financial distress ourselves, paying for all these new bells and whistles, but we're willing to have a reasonable conversation about all of it and help you comply with fiscal responsibility that is part of your position. Now, if there is an objection to the boathouse, and I've heard various things, sure, it's not everybody's cup of tea. Not everybody wants a sheet metal, garage to look at with vines growing out of the timbers that act as flotation devices, On the other hand, other people go, that's the charm. It's part of the community of boathouses that's been there for going on, 70 years, 60 years, something like that.
Yeah.
And
63.
Vince Sacrament isn't here, but in his letter, he notes, and he was going to bring down the newspaper clipping where everybody was applauding his new boathouse that had been constructed at Nichols Marina, our basin back there, and everybody got great accolades. This is a new way, and his, of course, is the most modern of any of the houses, and it's now over 30 years. When was it?
Yeah, probably.
It's in there. Yeah.
But, anyway, we're trying to be here to be constructive and help the port through the struggles you're going through financially as best we can. And yes, we're looking out for ourselves, but there's a win-win-win here. For the port can win, we can win, and people on the waiting list can all win. So we just want to help you make that happen. And like as you said, things change. Things have changed. Now, obviously, the poor is in a whole different ballgame now than they were back then when they had a bridge to pay for everything. So, let's figure out how to make this work for everybody. It's just,
Let me share my perspective and
Please.
maybe this will help frame things for you to respond to. So myself, along with Commissioner Thomas, were not on the commission when this decision.
Right.
However, as an elected official, the default is not to relitigate past decision making.
I get that.
The port at that time, various things went into that decision. There's a whole history of it and all these different factors and lots of different parties. Discussions and debates that were had over and over and over. And the commission made a strategic decision about what they saw or wanted the future of the marina to be. And some of the big issues were this idea that regardless of whether the water is in compliance right now or whether insurance is procurable right now, there is going to be an increased relative risk for fire and for water quality coming from the presence of boathouses versus boats and slips. That's one issue. Increased relative risk. The other issue has to do with the fact that it's public marina with sort of private boathouses that get the special, comparatively special treatment, right? There's a perception there that is not allowing people to have those spots and have, locked in for 5 years and then, potentially sell their spot. People that are leasing other slips cannot sell their lease to somebody else.
but they didn't pay for their dock.
They did not. And I'd have to go back and see what the exact agreement there. I don't, I haven't read like in exchange for paying the assessment fees, what was promised. I haven't read those documents, if whatever they may be. So I need to take a look at
It's
that.
a companion document to the lease.
That I read a little bit of, but
Sure. So there is this, from my perspective as a newer commissioner, I'm looking at this and saying, okay, I see the arguments on both sides. I see a commission that was in the past that said, hey, we have a strategy and a vision for the future of the marina, which is just going to be all slips, and so now, we're offering you the opportunity to come forward, and I guess I'm looking for something, a real slam dunk, sort of like overwhelming, like something that really swings the pendulum to the other side. I understand that turning the current boathouse docks into something else, it has costs associated with it. I am not certain, especially without the port, commissioning study to be done, that is necessarily more expensive than building new docks, because in some research that I've done, it looks like if we were going to add slips on the north side, that we would have to add another gangway and access point for stability and maybe some other things, and that would.
I'm sorry, not on the north end of A and B dock. You could use the same, and again, that's in the Flowing Solutions letter that's part of the packet.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but I'm hearing things from other places than just this one study that you guys had, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, without the port investing and going in and figuring out, and getting really hard numbers, hard to say. It just pointing out that like, oh, there's some relative, cost things here. That's not kind of the slam dunk for me that is going to be enough to move me as a more junior commissioner to say, I'm going to defy and stand against what this commission decided to do as a strategy for the marina. It's not enough. And again, that's not because I'm saying, well, you're wrong about your, no, I understand your arguments, but I also see the arguments on the other side.
Sure. Tor, you know, we just spent $4,400 with these two consultants to try to generate these letters to add credibility to what we've been told.
Yeah.
The only way to get you the hard numbers
Yeah,
is for the port to decide what it wants to do
right.
and pay for or go out
And so
bid,
my understanding,
which should be done.
my understanding is what the port decided to do, already decided to do, was to sunset the boathouses.
Yeah.
So,
But did they do it with full realization of what the return, what the return they're giving up and what return
so
they can
again,
expect?
I understand that there's a financial element of it, but there is also the equity element of it, of moving towards a future where it's all slips and they're all offered on an even footing. So, and our marina is, you know, as we're going through and we're discussing potential lease for our commercial dock, we're seeing what a rare resource our marina is in the mid-Columbia region, and how very desirable it is.
So we're wide open to a boathouse wait list. You know, that can also buy in on this.
We're also open to a first right of refusal by the port. You know, if they want to take over the boathouse and sell it for their own profit, they can pay us
Or lease it.
hang on to it, make it into a youth center or whatever they want to do.
Ask a question. You mentioned that. Be specific. At this day, what is the objection, that specific objections to having the boathouses in? You said the equity piece. Adding, maybe just clearing that area out and putting in eight stuff. What I can do. So what other reasons are there? Other, because you feel they're a fire hazard? Is that what I'm hearing?
It's not that I feel anything.
Okay, I'm
It's
sorry,
that-
maybe feels not the right. What are the specifics?
It's that, you know, past consultants have said, you know, and it's true. You've got a situation where maybe right now in the wintertime, where things are pretty quiet, so you test the water and it's great. But, and I don't know how, I'm not really active in the marina community. I don't know what's going on. Maybe there are crazy parties and people, you know, I don't know, right?
Okay, has there been testing done? Has there been actual water testing ever done?
I believe water testing has been done, but I guess my point is that it's been pointed out that there's this relative increased risk for water quality
And what
decrease
specifically would be the water quality from what?
from gray water, from, you know,
We don't,
people-
but we don't have water in the boathouse, so where would we get gray water? The boats all have the ability to produce gray water.
And
Boats can all have, they have toilets,
Sure.
they have porta potties are legal on the boats in the state of Oregon. The boats in the marina all have portable toilets. So to say specifically that since we don't have water or anything like that, that we would be polluting. When you have this whole other section that equally could be polluting. I mean, it's just the tip of the hat on that isn't fair.
The other factor is that
I mean, not on the other side.
the city's storm sewer dumps out right in the boathouse corner.
Right, and I know that it's created.
Yeah.
Potentially.
And I know that from time to time that comes through.
The big one,
Pollution is why.
yeah, and the potential for increased fire, when you've got people in a closed structure, especially if there's wiring in structures and things like that, that there's an increased risk there. That's not the big one. The big one is the equity issue. The big one is semi-private boathouses in a public marina. It's sort of, you know, people getting a lock on spots.
So let's open it up.
Yeah, I don't know what that, I don't know what that would look like. But I guess what I'm saying is that at this juncture, like going through this, it's not enough for me to say, to try to make, and you gotta understand, you gotta have 3 of these commissioners that are willing to change course.
Right.
Well, what would be enough?
I don't know, you guys want to pull Paul Allen or something like that, you know, I mean, there's, honestly, if you just asked me, if you guys came and said, hey, we'll build more slips, I'd be like, oh, okay. All of a sudden, the calculus is totally changed because that creates, but that's a lot of money and it's not reasonable. It's not something I would ask.
But that wouldn't change.
But it still wouldn't change. This is the thing. It still doesn't change the other issues.
Well, everything has risks.
But I know it does. But I'm just, everything in politics I've learned is, is a compromise. You never get exactly what you want. You got to try to figure out the best option.
Catherine.
Yeah, well, I know you're on a time.
Let Catherine jump in.
Yeah, we would.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, thank you, Catherine.
Okay. Thank you. I just had a question. I am, again, news commissioner, and I do appreciate all the time and effort that has gone into this. And I had the opportunity to speak with you all, your group, earlier this year. My question, did the commission did not vote to terminate the lease. They voted just to not renew the lease. Is that correct?
That's the same thing.
Okay,
Well,
so we don't need to, there's no, because the causes for termination then don't apply in this situation because the commission in previous years voted with the information they had, with the skills they had at the time they were given, just to not renew the leases. And so what we're trying to do is you're trying to come and just asking us to consider to go back on the decision of not renewing the lease. I just want to make sure that we're clear with what we're doing, because the leases weren't terminated, they just were not renewed. And that sort of is a different, at least for me, that just hits me just a little differently.
We were given a notice of termination.
Yeah.
Well, we were given a notice that the lease wouldn't be renewed.
And terminate.
I don't know if termination.
Yeah.
I would say it would be more that the port decided to not renew our lease as we got the,
They're
5 years.
terminating the rolling lease.
specifically, would it matter?
Yes.
Okay, let's find the notice. I have it. Find it, but.
Well,
I have a paper.
I think Catherine, did you have other
Yeah, any other?
questions?
Well, my only thing is, when we spoke, it is important if the data points were incorrect, and I think it behooves the houseboat owners if they want to continue to remain in a situation which former commissioners voted to not renew the lease because of the water quality concerns. That is a concern of mine, and so. And I understand. I see you're shaking your head. I understand that, sir. But the information we had and the time they given that led to their decision. And if there hasn't been a test to this point, though, to prove either way, I mean, you're asking a commission of people to go against, people who had historical knowledge, and I think we have a broader question as to what the port wants now. Because we're talking about decisions from 5 years ago, and we're talking about studies that may or may not have occurred, over 10 years ago. And there was a survey done that we did put out, what the marina wants to look like now. When we have to work for our constituents now, as opposed to the constituents, back in 2022, and or a very small group of houseboat owners. And to speak to the dock, which was purchased over 10 years ago at $250,000, which equates to approximately, if you divide it by the houseboat ownership of 10, that's, $25,000 over 10 years, $2,500 a year. I would say that with the depreciation values, you may actually find that it has been paid for, and yes, it was 100 years, but with the rent and the comparison to other groups, I think we can see that everyone may be losing in this situation, but I think the community can win if we really want the community to win. So I appreciate the discussion. Sorry to take up time, but I just wanted to say that I think the stats and data is, for me, is leading to, I agree with the decision that happened in 2022 of not renewing leases, not terminating, just not renewing them. So that's where I'm sitting now.
And it does say non-renewal of the lease agreement, so it's not a.
Well, there are two, I mean, I'll put on my attorney hat here, just talk off the top of my head. Being a non-renewal effectively terminates the right to renew, okay? So you terminate, the only grounds for termination that's set forth in the lease are the violation of the port rules and non-payment of your slip payment. There is nothing in there that indicates that they have the right to discontinue the renewal.
Yeah, read it carefully, because it's pretty clear. Anyway, Catherine, the one point that you made is, where do we want to go from here? And I think that's a question for the port in general. What do you want to, what's the vision? They stopped the Marina Ad Hoc Committee. So, they weren't getting, I know you sent a survey out. How many people who responded to that are really informed on the realities of what they're speaking about. But what do you really want from the marina? And what, and do you want it to be a significant contributor to your way out of the financial hole or not?
So, being the most tenured commission sitting here, but not being the most tenured one when that decision was made, I agree with Tor and Catherine that unless there's resounding evidence that has been presented that would vastly make us change our plans, the intent of the prior commission, to my recollection, was a combination of many things, and with many things comes unintended consequences. But I believe that the intent of the commission was to ensure that we had the most flexibility in order to position ourselves in a manner to best react to situations that were coming for us. Lost revenue, issues with the bridge, issues with spaces and lands and all of that. And I think that, knowing that it is fair and reasonable that we have to make these plans years in advance. So a plan that we made in 2022, 2023 is just now starting to come into, the forefront of things. And I feel like a decision was made to phase out the boathouses and say we are going to be a marina of slips to position ourselves for that flexibility. So anytime we kick the can down the road, or whatever discussion was happened and whatever lease was happened, might have been a commission just not wanting to stand up and say, for sure, we want to go this route. But I know in conversations with the commission, it seems like everyone is really wants to position ourselves for flexibility.
Well,
and
there's other ways of handling
but the decision of the commission at the time was based upon outside consultants, based upon the commission, based upon the information that was provided at the time. The commission at the time made that decision, and I agree with Tor and Catherine that unless something monumental comes up that would make us want to revisit that, I just don't.
Well, I know our time is kind of running out here. I left you with the checklist, and I think with all of your knowledge of this subject, that one-page checklist is about the financial, the other one is about the goals. As you're thinking about what you want the marina to be in the future and how you want to get there, please go through that relatively short checklist, because I think the realities of what it's going to cost to, get rid of us and try to do something for other constituents who are looking for more boat slips. You know, I think you will find, if you do the homework on it with us and with other consultants, like Flowing Solutions, who you've trusted in the past, you know, there's just a better way to do it than getting rid of this. So let's it help you achieve all your goals without throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Well, and I'm going to add, just from the information you have, you'll see how serious the effect is on the people that you're throwing out. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in some cases. And people that haven't had to upgrade, like our boathouse, because we waited till the dust settled. $40,000 to have the things demoed. Now, maybe we can get a group discount, but, or maybe the port can assist, because they've put us in a position where we paid for a new dock and they get nothing in return. And there's 40 years left.
But by whether you help us pay for it or not, you know, you're paying money to destroy income.
Yeah, no, I'm saying
Destroy
there's more to this.
potentially way more income. Why would you consider doing that today? I don't get it.
The flexibility that you're espousing still exists. Even if this gets renewed and the boathouses are there. Because most of those things have disappeared as we have out. So tell me what flexibility that you need at this point.
Just let us know. You know, I really appreciate you hearing us out. Really appreciate it. But please get back to us with, like Tor has elaborated on what it's going to take to convince us. Because I mean, I hope when you go through that checklist, Tor, you find some of what you're asking for. But if there's anything that we can do to provide that, we'll do it. We want to help the board survive the struggles you're going through and make the most of this for everybody.
Thank you so much. I know we need to wrap this up so we can get our meeting going.
Thank you so much for doing that today.
I just want to end by saying I keep hearing like stuff like throw us out and get rid of us and stuff. And I just hope you know that every member of the board appreciates who you are and appreciates you as a constituent, and any decision we make is purely based on what we think is best as a constituency as a whole, and that any hardship, any unintended consequences that happen, you know, we hope we can make right in any way we can, and that we're not throwing out people that we don't like. We're looking at which direction the marina should go as a whole. So I just want to say that, and that I really appreciate your time and effort and your passion for your little community out there.
The whole
you.
marina.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, so do you guys need 5 minutes?
Adjourn and then 5 minutes.
Okay, we're gonna adjourn the session.
Patty, are we going to use the same link or is it a different link?